This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
O'Reilly.
Check engine, ABS, or maintenance light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. The service is free and provides a report with solutions verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we could recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Top of the pops in the AFC North last year, Kieran Boyle, were the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, like the Ravens and the Browns, are coming in with a new head coach, this time in the experienced shape of Mike McCarthy, a former Super Bowl winner, of course, with the Green Bay Packers. They return Aaron Rodgers after a bit of a will he or won't he offseason, the kind of offseason in which Aaron Rodgers famously specialises. The Steelers are third in the betting for the AFC North, and I find them a very intriguing team, as we've talked about quite a lot on the show, it seems, where they act like a franchise that feels like they're only one player or one move away from contending. And yet the evidence before us over the last few years is that they're quite a ways away.
Yes, the Steelers. And we're in World Cup season. The, dare I say, the Canada of the NFL. They're going to bore you to death, get to the knockout stages, and then whimper out. So, yeah, I mean, they always talk like they got it. They're one player away. I'd argue that a little bit. I mean, what I will say for this year, they have done a massive amount of work on the offensive side of the ball, so I'll give them that. I mean, it's definitely going to be a more exciting watch. I mean, with the players that they brought in, just the wide receivers alone. I mean, with Metcalf, now you have Pittman. You got the kid from Alabama, Jeremy Bernard, who's going to be a real. That's your prototypical of all the slot receivers in the league. I mean, that guy was created out of a mold. So, you know, it's another year. You know, another year with Rodgers, McCarthy coming in, so that shouldn't be much of an issue with him. I think we all know it's his last year, so let's see how he wants to go out, and if he's going to be, you know, the Cavalier Cowboy going out in a blaze of glory, or if he's just going to be, they're going to limp to another 8 and 9, 9 and 8 season. So we'll see what happens there. But you have to be impressed with the moves they've made on offense, because this was a tough watch last year. I said it plenty of times the last couple of years. It's a hill of dust, and it's Chris Boswell with 3 field goals. So it's definitely good to see them, you know, bulking up a little bit. The RB room, I'm still, you know, Rico Dowdle was a nice addition, but Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle, that's going to take a little time to mesh, I think. I do like the kid they got from Navy, Eli Heidenreich. Real tough kid, smash mouth football player, you know, just wants the ball and just wants to hit people and get yards. The O-line has improved too with Fatanu. Obviously Frazier is a rock solid guy back there. They got Broderick Jones as well at tackle. So that's a good piece. And again, defense. I mean, we talked about the Bengals defense. We talked about the Ravens defense. If you look from the get-go with this Steelers defense, they should be competing, or they should be at top of the stats with pretty much you know, every kind of category, because when you have Derek Harmon, Keanu Benton, and Cam Hayward up front, and then you've got the likes of TJ Watt, Patrick Queen, and Highsmith filling your linebacker core, not to mention Joey Porter, Jalen Ramsey, you know, they bring in Brisker from the Bears, and even Jamel Dean from Tampa Bay. I mean, that's a great looking defense on paper right there. So let's see what they do, because it was a tough year from last year. They were 26th in total D, 29th in passing. Did all right in rushing D, so that kind of kept their average a little higher than it would have been otherwise. But big questions with how McCarthy's going to, you know, how he's going to manage this team and get the most out of all the players that's there. It'll take a little time to mesh, but I mean, you have to think the Steelers are going to be up there competing again. I mean, 10-7 last year, that's not out of the question this year. I think they're going to be right up there when it comes to it, because I think they've got the talent now. They've got much more impressive. I was reading an article. I think Jerome Bettis was quoted as saying it's a much more impressive looking team on paper, offensive wise. And like I said, when you look at the free agents acquisitions, and then some of the draft picks, that they've made as well. It looks good. I mean, Rodgers had a decent season last year, 3,322 yards, 24 touchdowns, 7 picks. You take that from Rodgers this year. So it's all there for him. It's a wide open division, as we've talked about already. Who wants it? Who wants it the most? It was going to the weather and all the other factors that are in play. I'm hoping that the Steelers will be a lot more entertaining to watch. And I'm looking forward to seeing that D just churn up fields in November. So I'm pretty high on the Steelers this year.
Connor, I was just thinking about you know yourself very well from your day job how well this organization is run, and we saw it firsthand last year and the great experience they put on for the fans throughout the course of the week. There was a lot of Steelers-led events, the lead up to the game, weeks in end, and please God, speculation in the future if the Steelers were to come back and play in Dublin. I think everybody would be delighted to see them back. But I thought in the draft night they were embarrassed by the way the Eagles went about their business with the McCoy-Lemon trade, and like thereafter there was a continued content coming out from the Eagles around how they orchestrated the deal, and by all accounts the Steelers media in particular weren't impressed. They were showing certain clips of their own, and they were really disgruntled by the fact in which way the Eagles went about their business. How quirky would it be if we saw a mad season from Aaron Rodgers and we got a very close by Super Bowl in terms of the Eagles against the Steelers, and the Steelers having a point to prove to kind of stick it back to the Eagles? It's probably highly unlikely that would be the Super Bowl, but sometimes these things have a unique way of flipping themselves on their head. And I said earlier on when the podcast earlier in the season, in a roundabout way, the quirkiness of actually taking that wide receiver in the second round that Kieran's referred to from Alabama, like he may end up being a steal and being a great wide receiver as opposed to Lemon, who goes into a very different environment in Philadelphia with the pressure on after the A.J. Brown trade. Maybe him going to Pittsburgh would have been the better move, but I just felt like I didn't like the way that the Eagles went about their business. It's not relevant to the Steelers in terms of what we're going to see from them this season. I agree with Kieran. Actually, I am quite positive on the Steelers this year, which is quite a surprise because I usually am quite down on them. But I think the fact that Rodgers has come back, I think Mike McCarthy is such an attacking-minded head coach. I think obviously they got the relationship together, and people felt like that relationship kind of was a little bit, I suppose, it got to the end of the road, but like there's been a lot of time and a lot of water under the bridge since then. So I think actually what they've done offensively will allow for Mike McCarthy to go in there and put a Steelers team on the TV for us this year, which will be much more compelling. And defensively, like they have got all the traits there. In fact, kind of used that last year. There was time and time again where you look at the Steelers defensively and the players they've got, how they were putting themselves in the position to lose games, and the numbers were just kind of starting around how much yardage they were giving up in games. If they can get back to what we've seen before with the Steelers defense, I think to be well within a shout in this division.
And if we end up in the unlikely event of a Pennsylvania derby in the Super Bowl, Brian O'Leary will be living high on the hog off the back of that clip, and we'll be playing it from here to eternity.
We'll be on the Quinn bet very shortly now to make sure I get financially remunerated for that.
Kieran O'Donovan, the thing with the Steelers is, much though we may criticize that they haven't made the breakthrough, they've also been an absolute model of consistency, and these, season in, season out, winning seasons, 9-8, 10-7 grant you, like they haven't really kind of broken out of that mold, but they play in a tough division. They've always managed to hold up their end of the bargain, and they deliver playoff football to their fan base. Not an awful lot needs to go right is the other way, perhaps, to look at this. If Mike McCarthy can provide a bit of an extra spark, if the roster additions they've made, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, where they did look light, they have the quarterback. The Russell Wilson, Justin Fields experiment didn't work out, but it's hard to argue that the Aaron Rodgers experiment hasn't worked out. He very much held up his end of the bargain. He just needed a little bit more around him. Now he's got more around him.
Yeah, and I was actually going to I was going to criticize the Steelers roster from top to bottom. I wasn't as convinced of the depth of talent, but Kieran has completely ripped that argument up, because as Kieran was mentioning player after player, I was kind of like, yeah, no, actually, you have a point there. They're more talented.
Apart from him.
And every single time I was looking position after position. But I look, you've actually got me really excited about this slot receiver. We talk, like, all I've been hearing about is Michael Pittman and the size he's going to bring, and now the fact that you've got 2 6'4" monsters at receiver, but you add in a good slot receiver, the tight ends and the production that they've had, you have me convinced. So look, absolutely, there is talent there from top to bottom on both offense and defense. The question for me is, what is the measure of success for the Steelers this year? What would a Steelers fan be happy with? Because yes, I mean, you've got Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy, but we've seen Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. We saw the downfall of Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy. Nothing would please me more than if this reunion turned out to be a huge success, and if the Steelers went to a Super Bowl off the back of it, and Aaron Rodgers rode off into the sunset. Because listen, for all his failings, I've been a huge Aaron Rodgers fan. He's part of the reason I'm a Packers fan. But we have the truth is we haven't seen the best version of Aaron Rodgers in the last couple of seasons. And you'd wonder, when push comes to shove, is a 40-odd-year-old Aaron Rodgers going to be enough? And as I said, I come back to it, and I said at the top of the show, would you rather be a Browns fan now looking at the next 5 years? Would you rather be a Steelers fan? Because if the Steelers fall short, I mean, if they get to the playoffs,
the answer
once
is
again,
you'd never rather be a Browns fan.
Well, yeah, okay. Look, it's a stupid question if you think about the history and if you think about absolutely everything. But in terms of where they are right now, the problem for the Steelers is, and we've talked about limbo for so long, they get to the playoffs, they win their division, they end up picking high in the first round of the draft, and they haven't been able to fix that glaring problem, which has been quarterback. So unless they can orchestrate a trade next year, if they fall short of a Super Bowl, which is what they should aspire to, if they've decided to stick with Aaron Rodgers this year, that's, to me, if you're a Steelers fan, is the goal. And if you fall short of that,
isn't that close? That's what they're saying as an organization by the moves that they've made. We believe that this roster is good enough to take us to a Super Bowl. That's what we expect.
And if they get,
because otherwise they would have torn it up or they would have traded one of their blue chip players and they'd have ripped it down to the studs, or tried a different direction, as other teams in the division, including the Browns that you just mentioned, have done. The Steelers are like all in a relatively quiet way in comparison to other teams, but they're all in.
Yeah, and that's the problem for me, or that's the question for me. If you're a Steelers fan, is how good do you want them to be? Because if they fall short this year, and again they miss out on all of those talented quarterbacks in the first round, by virtue of a late first round draft pick, are they going to try and orchestrate a trade? Are they going to find themselves back, towards the end of the queue in terms of the talent that they have at quarterback? If all of these guys hit, that will be snapped up by other teams next year. And it's not a way you should, it's not where your head should be at. I get it. I'm completely for being as good as you can be every season. But I believe that the Steelers have been a victim of that over and over again. And I'd wonder, will they be left scratching their heads next season when they're, when there is a vacancy at quarterback again?
As pundits, analysts, fans, whatever you want to call us, we love talking out of both sides of our mouth, because people are ripping the Rams for using a first-round pick on a quarterback to try and build for the future, while they also try to contend. Even though I made the argument on draft night, and I stand by it, isn't that what a good organization should do? You can do both. Yeah,
but they have the luxury of already having that roster that's contending. I mean, they had that luxury. They even, they went that way instead of bolstering their offense, which they could have done. But they're a completely different franchise in a completely different situation, I think, than the Steelers, and they have had recent success in terms of silverware. Again, the Steelers, I think they're a team that I have a lot more fondness for than I had before last season, with everything that we saw in Dublin, with everything that they brought to Ireland in terms of what they, in terms of how they embrace the occasion. I think I'd love to see them go on and do something special this season. But again, if they don't, I think they're going to be back behind the pack next year again.
Yeah, undoubtedly a classy organisation, but will they be the class of the AFC North again? We shall see. Stay tuned on the Irish NFL Show, and check out our other previews of the other divisions in the NFL, wherever you get your podcasts. And please do like and subscribe.